Going into the hospital, Magnificus began writing his memories, it seems. The story of his birth, his startling debut, and of the meeting of his disciples. It seems he inherited for the last chapter to end quite appropriately with his death. Wait, that book doesn't say the reason was, does it? The reason why his disciples couldn't refuse his last request? Sadly, it does not. What's important here is what on the last page. Apparently, the victim wrote in his journal that night, even after the IV had begun at 11 p.m. Let's read it, shall we?
This does appear to be have written just before his death. The court accepts this in the evidence.
Magnificus' diary added to the court record. Read the very last part with particular care.
The journal may end here or may go on, but not long. That depends on his hand.
Of course, by his, he refers to our defendant, Zachramari.
That would make sense, yes. He was the first scheduled visitor, after all.
But look at what he said before that. The journal may end here or it may go on. It may go on. Magnificus Mari intended to write again. That is, if Zachramari didn't pull the trigger. I see the defense understands the meaning of this. The victim's diary does not go on. It ends. I guess Magnificus' life was brought to an end by the defendant, Zachramari.
Order! Prosecutor Coffin! Are you certain that Magnificus Mari wrote this?
There's no mistaking his handwriting.
Well, this does seem to be significant. According to this, Magnificus did intend to continue his diary, yet if his diary ended here, which plainly it did,
then the one who pulled the trigger was the first visitor, Zachramari. Well, how do you like me now here, right? Still too green for your taste, He's right about the diary being pretty clear. Still, I find it hard to believe that he'd overlook such an obvious problem with his precise evidence.
Well, Mr. Wright, the witness's testimony we heard was lacking, but to put together with this evidence, it seems quite significant for our case.
If the diary is accepted like this, the trial is over. Maybe it's time for me to show them something. Show evidence. I'm left with no choice but to show my own evidence.
What? You have some evidence that overturns his diary?
It's not too late to rethink this and avoid more embarrassment.
Very well, please show your evidence, Mr. Wright.
Incidentally, don't even think of showing us this diary I've just shown to the court. Now that we've come this far, I hope you have something a little more decisive. Show us evidence that proves the victim continued writing his diary.
Alright, I'd be happy to.
The decisive evidence proving the diary didn't end with this page is... notebook page. First, take a closer look at this diary. Note that the page has been clearly ripped out.
What's this? I hadn't noticed that at all.
That's why we're still here talking about this. And as it just so happens, I have here what I believe to be the missing page. I don't believe it. Looking at this page, it's hard to imagine that the first visitor that night shot Magnificus Mari. That's the defense's proposition.
But wait, let me see that. What in Sam Hill? Why, this is a continuation of the victim's diary.
Note the torn edge of the page. It's perfect match with the torn remains of the last page in Magnificus' diary. Quite remarkable. Will you care to explain what this all means here, attorney? The diary continued after his first visitor came, which means that the victim was still alive after Zach Gamari left, leaving no one to take his life but the second visitor. Valiant Gamari. No! No!
The handwriting, too, matches the ones in the other pages. This is without a doubt a genuine article. Order! Order! Order!
But wait, that's impossible. The old man couldn't have written that. Oh, I thought the gate froze for a minute. Finally. You just couldn't resist, could you, Herr Wright? Resist what? Presenting solid evidence? Herr Judge.
Yes, Prosecutor Gavin?
With the request we put the current cross-examination on hold. The prosecution would like to call a new witness.
But Prosecutor Gavin, this evidence overturns the current witnesses.
I ask only to put it on hold. Please, my new witness has a very, very important piece of testimony to give. 5 minutes, no more. I promise, Your Honor.
Well, if you put it that way, Mr. Wright, what's your take on this?
Well, Your Honor, judging from his enthusiasm, we'll have to hear this new testimony sooner or later anyway, so it might as well be sooner.
Now, though it's highly, highly irregular, we'll put the current cross-examination on hold. The witness may step down. Now, Prosecutor Gavin, please bring this surprise witness to the courtroom.
I had a bad feeling just then. That ripped out page was too obvious. He must have known. And I should have known it was a bad sign all around.
Holding trial with no audience is a first, even for me, Prosecutor Gavin.
Jeez. I beg the court's understanding. But I had to make a judiciary deal with the witness to secure his testimony. A judiciary deal? The details of his testimony have some legal ramifications, shall we say. I thought it'd be best to contain the information to this room.
Very well, and you're the witness, I gather. Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
State your name and occupation for the record.
My name's Drew Marshall. I'm a painter. A painter? And you are somehow related to this case? No, well, not per se.
I have one simple question for this witness. Mr. Marshall, was it? Do you know what this is?
Oh, yeah. I know it well.
How is that possible? Have you seen this diary page somewhere before?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I made it.
You what? You made it?
Yes. You might call it one of my works.
The regional prosecutor's office received a tip-off yesterday. Illegal evidence has been prepared for the trial of Zach Gamari.
Illegal evidence?
I did an investigation and we found this witness. A painter to the world at large. Joe Marshall has another side, you might say. He is skilled at making perfect reproductions of certain things. Forgeries, in other words. Forgeries?
Well, so we are to understand that this page here is
a fake, prepared by a certain defense attorney. Hold it. I didn't prepare this evidence. Ah, the attorney speaks. Something about this page, I presume, but what he is saying, it makes no sense. Afterwards, it was you who presented this evidence to us, Phoenix Wright.
Witness, Mr. Marshall, was it? Who requested this forgery? Was he? Who was your client? That I don't know.
What?
Most of my clients prefer to remain anonymous, even to me. I make the items they want and they receive my payment. That is the extent of my contact with them.
But there's no proof that this is a fake.
It's a fake.
Huh?
To avoid just this sort of problem, I always put a special mark on my works. I can say without a doubt, this is mine. Mr. Wright, you have just presented illegal evidence to this court, my court.
It was careless of me. That's all I can say.
Oh, old boy. Here.
What's this?
I don't know. I just got it over there in the hall. They told me to give it to the old boy in the blue suit with spiky hair. They said it was really important.
It was all a trap. A fatal trap.
Mr. Wright,
Yes?
do you have an explanation for yourself?
If I did, the court would hear it.
Probably not. Forging evidence is a serious crime. And presenting it in court is a serious mistake. A fatal mistake for an attorney.
Fatal to perhaps for your client, I fear.
Tell me, what kind of defendant relies on forged evidence?
The answer is quite clear. A guilty one. Your Honor, wait. I understand that presenting forged evidence in the court is a serious crime, but you cannot hold my client responsible for actions I undertook as an individual.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wright.
Your Honor?
Another close call, I dare say. If the prosecutor's office hadn't received that hot tip, everything would have gone the way you wanted it to, Ja. I even gave you a chance. Too bad you decided not to think before embarrassing yourself.
As you don't need further discussion on this matter, special witness dismissed. Mr. Attorney,
Yes?
could I ask your name?
Phoenix Wright.
Mr. Wright. I have seen and studied people, but none like you. I'll remember you, Mr. Wright. Though I deeply regret having to declare a verdict in this way, but this trial is over. You have the right to find a new attorney and make an appeal. However, this court must... Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Zack? There's one thing I wish to make clear. Today, in this courtroom, you cannot declare me guilty. It is impossible. I'm afraid the defendant is quite mistaken. I most certainly have the authority to declare a verdict on you. Except, tell me, how do you plan on announcing your verdict when your defendant does not exist? Does not exist? What are you talking about? I am talking about this.
But Mr. Egmar,
The defense has escaped. Find him, quick!
Bailiff, close all access to the building. On the double, he must not be allowed to escape.
that day, in that courtroom, a miracle occurred. The defendant, Shadi Egmar, aka Zach Ramari, did not just escape from the court, he literally, unbelievably vanished. Right before the bailiff's eyes. No one ever saw him again, not since that day.
This is the Gramari miracle.
No verdict was declared. After all, the defendant didn't exist. That's how it happened. The trial of magician Zach Ramari vanished along with him for all eternity. The mystery that remained behind were all solved, however, but not until 7 years later. To be continued. Well, We now know how Phoenix Wright was stripped of his badge. He was tricked into presenting forged evidence. It seemed pretty much like a setup. Zachary vanished from the courtroom. There was no verdict. It ends like that. So next time on Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, we will be seeing what we have left to do with Phoenix Wright. See you then.
Praise is far